Hi, I'm Johnny from ultimatepapermache.com, and in the last 3 videos I've been showing you how this pattern that I just created, how it goes together, how I put the paper mache and paper mache clay on there, and then how to, or how I sculpted this crazy mane. And so now it's got some primer on there and I'm ready to paint it. Now this is always kind of the scary part for me. I do paint everything, but I'm not like a professional painter, so the way I do it, my theory is that you just keep putting paint on there until you decide you like it and then you quit. That's how I do it. So don't take this as a tutorial on how you're supposed to paint your horse. It just happens to be the way I painted this one this time. I did use a photo. I've got it sitting right over there on my computer. It was on Wikimedia, and I'll put a link to it down below if you'd like to use it for your model as well. Or just go ahead and do an online image search for a horse head. I mean, there are hundreds of different colors and color spots and variations that are just amazing. So use the one you like. Now there's a couple of things I wanted to tell you about just before I get started. Now the first thing is that I used latex primer instead of acrylic gesso. And I used 2 coats, but after the first coat I found a couple of things that are easier for me to see once everything is the same color. You see, there's lines here that I thought I was softening them up enough with my paper mache clay. That's the lines that were from the pattern itself. And I would rather those 2 lines weren't there. I'm going to let it go this time, but I wanted to show you how you can get rid of those if you want to. This is how I would do it. I would, well, here we go, it's a little bit too wide. Just got my foil here. You can do a lot of sculpting with foil. I would put the foil on like this with hot glue probably, right between the ridges. I would smash it down just as well as I could, and I'm not going to do that completely now because you can see what I'm doing. Just make it so that it forms the nice curve that you want, and put it right there, and stick it on with either masking tape or hot glue. If you are using paper mache clay to cover it, you don't need to cover it entirely with masking tape, but if you're using paper strips and paste, you do, because the paste doesn't like to stick to aluminum. Now you can also use the foil for more sculpting. If you want a really realistic horse, there's a big muscle that goes right down here. You can use your foil to do that. You'd want to do it, of course, before you put the primer on there and before you put the paper mache on. There's a lot of bumps and ridges on a horse's face that I had to leave off. I didn't think you'd like me very much if I made you cut out and tape together like 200 pieces of cardboard. So it's very simplified pattern, but there's a lot of things that you can do, and every single horse's face is different. They've all got different bumps and ridges, and you can add those if you want to with your foil and some hot glue or masking tape. Some of them have really obvious veins right in here. I know a lot of people actually sculpt with hot glue. I don't, because I tend to get my fingers in it, so I stay away from the stuff if I can. But that would be a really good use for it, to bring those veins out. But I'm going to leave mine this way, and I'm going to get started painting it. I mixed up quite a lot of a really dark chocolate brown. I'm using mostly Mars Black with some cadmium red light and just the tiniest touch of cadmium yellow light. And those are basically the only colors I'm going to use on the whole horse. Now I also added some golden glazing liquid so it wouldn't dry too fast. I'll be putting more color over this. It's going to have a chestnut colored mane just like the rest of his face. Yeah, I'm really liking that. And when we add that lighter red chestnut color to that, that's going to look really pretty. I just read a book by an author whose name I can't remember right at the moment. I'll look it up and put it on the screen. And she paints horses and portraits of dogs on canvas. I'm using the colors that she suggested for, making the fur colors. But she also said that the first thing you want to do is put a wash of your darkest color over your entire canvas, and then start adding colors on top of it. It's kind of the same thing that I do with my glaze at the very end normally, because I use a real dark color and then pull all of it off except for where it sinks in, and I just put it right over everything that's already been painted. Kind of brings everything together, but I've never done it upside down like this with the dark color going on first, so we're gonna have to wait and find out if it works or not. It isn't showing any of those stripes that you would get when acrylic paint dries and then you try to do another wash right next to it with same color. You end up with stripes. I'm sure you've seen those. I'm not getting it, but I think it's probably because I added the golden glazing liquid. So I know that the author of the book I read wasn't using the glazing liquid. She was just using water to thin out her paint. But I think she was able to get away with it probably because she was just washing it on flat, probably with a really big brush, really fast, and then going back over it and pulling off the areas where she wanted it to be really light. I'm pulling off all of it because I only want this dark color for the shadows and for his nose. I don't want any brush marks, and because this is transparent, it's showing the brush marks really a lot. So I'm just kind of dabbing at it. There's probably a word for this. There is a dark part here, but not as dark. Maybe I'll just do this. I'm just trying to follow the color patterns on my model. I mixed up a dark chestnut that actually it's actually a little bit darker than it looks on the video, I think. First thing I'm going to do is put some on the eye, but this will get us started. Just trying to catch the tops of those strings. Just putting a very dry brush right over that dark part. I'm not trying for any fur marks of any kind. If I had put more details in with the paper mache clay, I probably would have go ahead and put fur marks in too. Now at this point I really thought he was done, but when I let him dry overnight and I came back to it, it looked just a little bit dull. It just didn't, it wasn't as vibrant as I wanted it to be. So I mixed up some new brown, and this time instead of using the red, yellow, and black, I used red, yellow, and blue, plus a little bit of white. And it just seems to have, it just feels better. But I do want all those other layers to show through too. I did use a little bit of the golden glazing liquid, so it's slightly transparent, but the white kind of counters that. Now I really hope that this dries very close to this color because I like it an awful lot better. You see how it has a little bit more of a glow to it? Could be though, just because of the lighting or because it's wet. We're going to see. Okay, so now he's done. I really like him now. Remember when I told you that my theory of painting is to just keep adding paint until I like what I see? Yeah, you probably thought I was kidding, but nope, that's what I do. I'm going to let the acrylic paint cure for a couple of days, so make it nice and hard, and then I'm going to give it probably several coats of a matte acrylic varnish. I really like the Deco Art Americana brand, but any varnish will work. And I'm going to glue some felt to the bottom, because we didn't put any paper mache down there, but we do need something on it, so I'm going to put some felt. Now, if you do use this pattern to make yourself a horse sculpture, I do hope that you come back to the Daily Sculptors page on my website, ultimatepapermache.com. There's a link to the Daily Sculptors page right at the top, and that's where we share all of the photographs of everything that we make. We learn so much from each other, and it's just so much fun seeing what everybody makes. I know that every single horse that gets made with this pattern is going to look completely different. Your mane's going to be different, your colors are going to be different, and I just can't wait to see them. You can find this pattern at ultimatepapermache.com/horse pattern. There is a small charge for it. You can download it today and get started, and when it's done, make sure that you come back and visit us, ultimatepapermache.com. We'll see you there.